This one is called Adverse Possession. And both characters are a little devious. This was kind of a fun one to write. The male especially, not a guy you'd want to know probably. But I based this story loosely on one thing, and then it stops. There's nothing after that that's part of the story. It didn't unfold like that at all. So let's get that straight. But at one point, I helped a friend carry a couch in a New York City apartment building up about eight or nine flights of stairs. Lived on a high floor. He'd gotten a couch, and the couch was too big to fit in the elevator. And they might have even had a service elevator, or maybe they didn't. Some of the buildings have a service elevator, which has a much bigger area for that kind of stuff. I think this did not, but it had a ceiling panel that they would typically take off for that kind of thing, so they could angle things up much higher. And it still didn't fit. It was just a big, bulky, fancy couch. And it was all wrapped in bubble wrap. And so this guy and me and maybe another guy he rounded up. We, on a Saturday morning, we carried it up the stairwell. And it was one of those stairwells that it went half a flight and then it would turn. So really, to go up 8 floors, you're going 16 little flights of stairs and making the turn. We got up about 5 or 6 flights, and I was on kind of the back end, and all of a sudden I realized every turn we'd been making, we'd been scraping the bubble wrap against the wall, the interior wall of the stairwell, and we hadn't thought really anything of it. Just sort of it was so big, it required just kind of being scraped slightly to make the turn. But then I realized that wall was heavily textured. It was very industrial. And it was like, cement. Everything was concrete and, heavy steel railings. And the wall was very heavy textured stucco, industrial stucco. And that every time we made the turn, so this had been now like about 10 turns now if we go up 5 floors, that the wall, the texture of the wall had cut through the bubble wrap and then worked its way in, and it cut into the arm of the couch badly. The brand new couch, which probably cost him a few $1,000. It was a very expensive situation. So, and then by the time I noticed it, you could see some of the stuffing coming out of the arm. So I can't really remember what happened, but I think I didn't say anything immediately. We got up there, finished it off, got it in, and then I kind of tried to get out of there as quick as I could. And so my friend wouldn't think it was my fault, and the other guy kind of did the same once he realized it. But the friend did kind of realize it as we were trying to duck out of there, and kind of, you could see he was pretty devastated, but he also said, "That's not your fault. It was my fault for ordering the dump. My wife's fault for ordering the dump thing in the first place. What were we thinking, etc." So we got out of there, and everything that was fine. They went their own way with the couch. I think they got somebody to repair it, and that was that. But I took it a different way, where I had a couple struggling at each other's throats, and the couch was kind of the final straw. The husband, I think, does not want the couch. The wife wanted it, and kind of blames the husband when it gets up there, blames him for, for wrecking the couch, etc. But that's just a small part of what's really wrong with their relationship. And so that's what I try to go into just a little bit in Adverse Possession. Adverse Possession. Ed liked to blame the couch, though there was a lot more to it, but that part didn't help. What Caitlin did, she went out and spent $4,000 on it, and then when they delivered the thing, it didn't fit in the elevator. Ed watched them try removing the little ceiling panel, which he didn't even know came off. But even so, they couldn't angle it in. Ed and Caitlin lived on the top floor, 12, a co-op building in Yonkers, which had been another point of contention since you could have gotten the same exact unit down lower, a lot cheaper, but that's what she wanted. Ed offered the two guys $100 to carry it up, but they weren't interested, which meant he should have trusted his instincts and refused the delivery right then and there. But he didn't. He thanked them, and they left this mauve-colored, bubble-wrapped monstrosity in the middle of the lobby. Ed's friend Tim came down from Ardsley, and the Supers high school kid helped out, and they got it up about 8 flights before someone realized that as they were making each tight turn, the heavily textured stairwell walls had been methodically cutting through the bubble wrap and had fairly substantially eaten away at the right arm of the couch. They finished the job, having to take the apartment door off to wedge the thing through, and Tim and the kid got out of there fast, probably thinking it was their fault. Ed was in the kitchen, massaging his third beer, a little college football on, when Caitlin came back from her well-timed 9-mile run. She took a moment and said, "Honey, for God's sakes, you didn't tell them it was defective?" She looked even more food-deprived than normal. "It became defective," Ed said. "By then, it was a little late." "Okay, whatever," she said. "Your attitude aside, you need to take care of this. Send it back." Ohio State blocked a Michigan punt and ran it down to the 2. Ed popped open another Corona. "Pretty interesting how you say send it back, like a pair of duck booties going back to L.L. Bean." "You're being an asshole, Ed. But yes, just like that, actually." He was tossing it around for his own amusement, how you really would handle something like this. He said, "My guess would be you somehow lower it off the terrace, looking out there toward Jersey. Wouldn't you think?" Caitlin didn't answer, but when she came out of the shower, she said, "There's a service in the city where they cut them in half and then reconnect them. I never thought about it much until now." "Sorry, babe," Ed said. "I fucked it up." "It's okay. We'll find someone to repair it. It's not the end of the world." She could do what she wanted, but Ed knew one thing for sure. His rear end was never going to grace that couch. It wasn't an organized decision to separate. Ed just started sleeping at the office a couple nights a week, and then pretty much full time, and a year went by and Caitlin didn't seem to care. He'd picked up one of those camping pads that reduced to a tidy, compact square, and at night he stretched out under his cubicle. It wasn't bad. There was a fitness room and showers, and the company cafeteria was open long hours and was cheap. What more could you need? Caitlin found a Finnish woman who repaired upholstery. She sewed up the gash, did an incredible job. You could barely see anything, but Ed held firm and never did sit on it. Though he did utilize it that one time. Caitlin was out of town on business. She repped pharmaceuticals, and he stopped by to pick up a couple things, and next thing you knew, he ran into Megan from down the hall, and she stood there and said she hadn't seen him in a while. At that point, Ed made a determination, and it seemed the couch was as good a place as any, so it wasn't worth worrying about too much. Ed thought a divorce made sense. "Not a problem," Caitlin said. "I'm sure we can find some common ground." This didn't have a great ring to it. Nothing specific to go on, but Ed wondering now if it might somehow cost him $100,000 or so to get out of it, and he didn't bring it up again. The next spring, Caitlin announced she had changed jobs and was moving to Florida, and he could do what he wanted with the apartment. For a day and a half, he considered moving back in, but then listed the place. After the broker's commission and transfer tax, it was pretty much a wash. Luckily, the new buyers were fine with the couch, so he threw it in for free. He didn't hear from Caitlin again until right around Christmas. "Uh-oh," Ed said. "This can't be good, can it?" "Doll, I'm in a bit of a situation here," she said. "You must be, seeing as how you haven't called me that since we lived on 23rd Street. I met someone. Things aren't going well." Ed said, "That wasn't a bad setup. I mean, yes, you had the 5-story walk-up and the crosstown traffic noise, but we had fun in that place." "I guess we did," she said. "And some wild parties as well. Remember when the Cuban guys showed up with the timbales?" Caitlin said, "Ed, I'm afraid of this person." Ed was digesting this. She was a button pusher. Way back before he met her, his therapist suggested he was attracted to difficult women because they acted the way he didn't allow himself to. That was bullshit, of course. "Ah," he said. "We'll have a week, sometimes 2 or 3, things'll be perfectly smooth. Then he'll just lose it." "Lose it how? You mean slap you or something?" "It's never come to that, but I fear it could. The other night we were arguing, it was quite ugly, and the neighbors called the police." "And what, they took you both in?" "That's what I hear they do these days, if it's not clear-cut what's going on." "Don't be silly. But they did speak to us separately, and the female officer, she advised me to pursue a restraining order." "So good. And you have that now?" "Not exactly. I spoke to an attorney. There are pros and cons, apparently. One concern is the order can actually antagonize the person." "Yeah, it could backfire on you. I could see that," Ed said. "No doubt every circumstance is different, though." Remembering his own situation in Santa Monica, he'd just come back from playing tennis when they served him. He tried to laugh it off, but he never fooled with that Sally woman again. They were both quiet for a minute. "Okay, let me get one thing straight," Ed said. "You got no one down there can help you with this?" "Well, a girlfriend strongly suggested I move," Caitlin said. "I see, a preemptive strike then." "So I did that, today. I'm in a motel in West Palm Beach. I parked the car long term and rented one." "Jesus Christ, you're serious. What about work and stuff?" "It's an hour down 95. This, hopefully, it's only until things blow over." "Which you think they might not." "Ed, he was in Iraq. He's a security consultant now, well paid, wears good suits, gets his hair styled." "But he's unhinged." "Possibly." Ed said, "Oh boy, what's the fucker's name? Spell it out." It was a hectic week to be traveling south, but he found something halfway decent on Expedia non-stop to Lauderdale in the morning and booked it. Caitlin had been hesitant when he asked for more information on the guy. Ed thinking, she's afraid now that I might confront him, so why'd you call me then? But the guy appeared to be listed, nice and old-fashioned, phone number and address, a low-rise complex in Coconut Creek, about 15 miles from the airport. On street view, Ed could see some of the apartment doors. With the typical delays, plus the cab and traffic, it was late afternoon when he got there. There was no bell, so he knocked. A man opened the door and Ed said, "If you're Gary, I'm Ed Bostic." Gary flinched slightly. Ed said, "What happened at work in corporate security? It's not even cocktail hour." "I'm on nights right now," Gary said. "You want to sit by the pool?" It was a tired, kidney-shaped job surrounded by a cyclone fence. Ed recognized the sound of pickleball being played nearby. He said, "You're not very big, you know it? And you don't strike me as much of a tough guy. I guess that's the way it works, though, huh?" Gary said, "You talking in my business or my relationship with your ex-wife?" "She's still my wife," Ed said, "but forget that. Yeah, both, I guess. Listen to me. No idea what Caitlin told you, but if you think..." "She ever ask you," Ed said, "how much you make?" "As a matter of fact, she has," Gary said, "and I'm all about full disclosure." Ed was thinking of the time they were on Turkey Mountain with Patty and Gil. Bright fall colors, driving up the Taconic, the air crisp. Should have been a sweet little hike, but Caitlin can't keep her mouth shut. She keeps harping to Patty and Gil about his job. There was a steep section where you had to be careful, where it dropped off, and Ed had pictured bumping her over the side, wondering how that would have felt after. Now he watched this pathetic piece of shit fidgeting in his patio chair. "So, we're good then?" Ed said. "Partner, we always have been," Gary said, surprised, reaching out his hand. Ed ignored it. "Of course, the big thing," he said, "the crux of the matter, where she disappeared to. That'd be nice, I'll admit." "Well, you could start with the motel scene up in West Palm. Probably a piece of cake for a big shot detective like you." When he got out of there, Ed thought he might poke around long-term parking at the airport for the heck of it. There'd be a lost ticket fee, but he had a set of keys, and what was the rush getting back home, really?